Okay, once again, welcome back to one more presentation on the sensor technologies that are used in our IoT paradigm. So, in our previous presentation, we have looked into a different kind of sensors that we use in our IoT scenario. A lot many sensors have been discussed, right? Like your pressure sensors, right, or the sound sensors, the barcode sensors, the magnetic sensors, distance, humidity, light, acceleration, all these kind of sensors have been discussed. As a continuation of that, let us discuss about some more things today, uh, wherein we will begin with the gyroscope sensors. As I've already told you what exactly we mean by gyroscopes. Angular, acceleration, and change in the direction or the angle, right? So these things are measured. Maybe when we look into these things, a very common example that generally comes to our mind is the mobile gaming, right? So in your mobile gaming applications, probably you must have seen in what way you will have to have the control over the change in the direction, or what we call it as angular acceleration. So that doesn't mean that mobile gaming is the only application where you will be using the gyroscope sensors, but there are so many other applications in the real time industrial scenarios and all, right? So basically, uh, for mobile gaming applications, in motion gestures of a player when deploying a gyroscope. This is what we generally come across in our mobile gaming applications. But now, when we speak about the gyroscopic sensors, you will have some more important points to be noted, like the orientation of the compass and the direction of the compass. How exactly you will be able to differentiate between a linear motion and the angular motion, or a linear displacement and the angular displacements. What principle is behind these things in identifying these angular displacements, right? So a gyroscope uses an electronic compass or a digital compass. It is not the conventional compass, either electronic or digital compass, and in that way it shows the change in the angle or change in the direction. And basically, when you have that setup, the gyroscopic compass or the gyroscopic sensors, needless to mention that you will have the microcontrollers, ports, and other things, right, in order to have the data properly measured and put into next layers, so that the data is properly processed, right? Digital compass sensors send zeros and ones to microcontroller serial port. The sensor is given input supply, connect serial port terminals, clocks, serial data, and all. These are the very common things that you know, right? The sequence of serial bits correspond to a byte, that is the 8-bit number, and after that compute for the angle f with respect to the north direction, right? So there will be always a specific direction which is taken as the reference. Based on this, whether you move this side, whether your movement is this side, so whatever the displacement that takes place angularly, right, so that will be used to compute an angle f with respect to one standard direction, which is generally north. Okay, this is how the compass orientation and the direction of the compass is considered in our gyroscopic sensors, right? So this is another technology by virtue of which the angular displacements or the angular motions are measured. That is called as the gyroscopic sensor. So then, proceeding further, we have some more sensors which we call them as the environmental monitoring sensors, right? Maybe parameters like temperature, humidity, pressure, light, all these things are being measured, right? So you have seen so many kind of things to measure these parameters, right? Maybe a thermistor, a thermocouple, right? Temperature sensor kind of things, right? A humidity sensor. So whenever we speak about the barometric pressure, right, you have the barometers, you have Bourdon tubes, right? So light detecting resistors, LDRs, right, or the light sensors, all these things are coming under the vast category of the environmental monitoring sensor, right? A collective use of these parameters in sensors, circuits with associated sensors as one compact electronic board. So what I mean to say here is, if at all you want to measure the different parameters on a single board or one single device, it is possible. And accordingly, most of the industrial applications, right, where it is necessary for you to measure the temperature, humidity, pressure, light, and so many other things, generally they all kind of these sensors are incorporated in a single electronic board, so that you can have the common sharing of the power supply, reduced space, right? Some of the commonly used features can be shared among the different measuring techniques. So in order to have these kind of benefits, generally you make use of a single electronic board in order to have all these parameters measured. So this is about the environmental sensors. And the next one is again a very important one, which we call it as participatory sensing circuit, right? What do you mean by participatory sensing? Who are all participating in this particular sensing? So sensing by individuals and group of people contributing sensory information. This is a very important point to be noted. So instead of having one entity deployed for measurement of a particular quantity, so there will be a group of people or individuals who are contributing for sensory information, right? It is a process, that is the participatory sensing is a process whereby the individuals and communities use ever more capable mobile phones and cloud services, right? So everyone will be having the mobile phones, and the different kind of sensors are already incorporated in the mobile phones. Making use of these things, measure the various parameters, collect and analyze the data in a systematic manner, and finally use this data in the discovery of new facts. This is what is going to be seen as long as the participatory sensing is concerned. So now if you look at this diagram, so probably you will be able to understand in what way the participatory sensing can be used, right? So you have got a main server here, right? You have got several participants here, 1 2 3 4, something like this, right? So all these participants, by virtue of their mobile phones, right, they sense different data, different tasks also, and they send this information to the server, and in the server a collective repository of the data, right, is made available, by means of which it is possible for us to go into the exploration of some new facts, right? So what we have seen here, this is what we call it as participatory sensing. And here if you look at the first diagram here, A, right? So this is what is going to give us how exactly the participatory sensing is used. You can see here individual data collectors, as I have already told you, the same diagram which I have shown in the previous slide, it is going to be repeated here by virtue of the explanation. So you have got individual data collectors, you have got group data collectors, or you may have the data as long as the social sites are concerned, right? So communication of fire data, waste collection need data, all these things you can have the individual data collectors can do. Okay, so suppose in your area, right, so if the municipality has made some provision for you to make the clicking of the waste which is accumulated, and those clippings you can upload in their website or upload in the concerned area where it is required. Then they may be quick enough to pick those garbage compared to the routine thing, right? So this is what is called as a kind of collection of the data individually, right? So like that, from different places, different people might take those photos and upload, and this becomes a very good data repository for them, so that they can have the quick access to the place where a lot of accumulation of such kind of the garbage and other things has taken place, right? So now group data collector, if you look here, the group data collector, traffic light, sending traffic density, parking availability of the data, right? Automobile communicating traffic density at different locations. So these are all called as the group data collectors. Then you have got the social site data. Could it be on your social media, right? Like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, something like that, right? So these are the different kind of the collection of the data. Then afterwards, you can see here you have got the network here. So from the network, now after having collected the data, what you are going to do using this participatory sensing? Ultimately, when you have collected the heterogeneous type of data, the data is analyzed somewhere and it is used for arriving at some new fact. So there are different steps here. You can see here phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, 4, phase 5 and phase 6. Let us quickly look into what are these phases of your 6 phase of your participatory sensing process. The phase 1, as you can see here, coordination, in which the participants of the participatory sensing process organize after identifying the source. You can see here that happens to be the first phase. So here you have all the data collection mechanism taking place, you have got the network. Then comes the next aspect, like the coordination. The first one happens to be the coordination, right? So all the participants who are all there in the participatory sensing process organize the data after identifying the data source, right? Then you have the data capture, which comes in the second as well as the third phase, right? Communication and storage on the servers or clouds. Then the remaining phases, that is the phase 4 and phase 5, right? The data processing, analytics, visualization and knowledge discovery. This exactly resembles what we have seen in our data analytics, right? So you have the source here. This source could be from multiple entities, like what we have seen, individual, group or the social data. Then your all other processes begin here, right? So you have the coordination of the data. After that you have the capture, communication of the data, storage, then analytics, visualization or the discovery of the knowledge at the highest level here, right? So now based on this, you will be able to take a proper decision or the discovery of the knowledge what you can have, right? So finally the last phase happens to be the action taking based on whatever the visualization or the knowledge discovery you have made here, right? So this is called as the 6 phases of the participatory sensing process. So the same thing is shown here also: coordination, identification of the sources, capture of the data, then the data storage, the different mechanisms, protocols, right? All those things we have already seen previously, in what way these things take place, right? So then you have the data processing here. Finally you have the analytics and visualization of the data, so that you have the discovery of the knowledge, and finally you take the decision, applications and services, right? So you can always think of some of the real-time analogous example on this kind of participatory sensing, you just try to imagine some situation where you collect the individual data, or could it be a group data, or could it be the data from the social sites and all, and after having collected, in what way you organize these things till you take a specific action at the end, right? So try to correlate the different activities that happen in and around you in your day-to-day life, and try to bring it into the scenario or the domain of participatory sensing. So this is what is called as the participatory sensing. But here we will look into some of the applications, or maybe some of the limitations also, right? So now probably you should be able to do what I have just told, retrieving the information, individual and group of the people. Could it be related to the weather, environment information, may be related to the pollution, may be related to the waste management. This example I have already made a mention. Maybe it is only a part of that, right? So you can have a detailed application designed by virtue of this. So you may have something called as the faults that are taking place in the roads, right? So you can always make the attention to be drawn by the concerned people. You have the health related issues addressed there, right? You have the traffic congestions, urban mobility. So these are all the different fields wherein you can work a lot as long as the social obligations are concerned, right? So disaster management, flood, fire, health issues, especially in the rural areas and all, right? So lot many kind of applications can be developed, but only thing is that you have to make up your mind and orient yourself towards whatever are available in the overall IoT scenario, right? So once if you do that, so you should be able to pick up any one of such applications, and you can design or develop your own modules so that you address these kind of issues. So these are some of the applications of participatory sensing. Again, having said that, you have several limitations or bottlenecks as well, right? So they are referred to as the challenges, the security, the privacy, right? Reputation, effective incentives to participating entities. Whenever you try to collect the data from different people, right? Whether they voluntarily agree to collect and share the data, that is a different thing. But whenever you make some incentives to be given or something like that, then there will be issues related to that, right? So these are some of the things which generally appear as the bottlenecks, but nevertheless it is possible to overcome all these problems with the proper design and proper the actions, right? So this is about the participatory sensing. Now after having seen the participatory sensing, let us look into one more aspect which is very similar to your IoT, but with an adjective, that is industrial IoT. So IoT may be a customized IoT for the industrial application, right? So a lot of scope is being given to the industrial IoT as on today, because the IoT applications very much suit the industrial process nowadays. What you call it as smart industry. When you speak about smart industry, right? Smart industry. Then whenever I use the word smart, then definitely all your sensors, communication networks, the action taking paradigms, all those things should come into picture. So ultimately it should lead to your business intelligence. This also we have discussed in detail, business intelligence. Okay, so what exactly is this industrial IoT? The use of IoT technology in the manufacturing, right? And some of the basic differences between your conventional IoT and your industrial IoT, you should be always able to understand, right? So now if you look at your conventional IoT, or your IIoT, industrial IoT. Uh, Generally, in conventional IoT, right, the data that is being handled is generally small to medium, whereas here, as long as your industrial IoT is concerned, the volume of the data that is being handled is a huge amount of data. It is with respect to certain applications I am speaking about, right? So when you have got a lot of data to be handled, then definitely the you know uh, the complexities also increase in the industrial IoT. Basically, both here they are both are your communication based ecosystems. Both are communication based ecosystems only, but the way in which the communications take place, they are going to be different in a conventional IoT as well as in your industrial IoT, right? So generally a very sensitive and precise informations, whatever the information you have here, right? So they are very precise, or they are always very sensitive, because you are dealing with some industrial process control. And here whatever the informations you have, they need not necessarily be either precise or sensitive. Always they may be sensitive or precise, but they need not always necessarily be precise, right? So the data management or the connectivity or the security, use of the cloud, all those things happen in both the scenario, right? Data management, you have to give the importance for the security also, right? So you should give the equal importance to the connectivity also, right? You have to give the importance of the usage of cloud also in both the cases, right? But the way in which these things are done or handled, they are going to be slightly different in your industrial IoT, right? So now with that, let us see you can see integration of complex physical machinery, M2M communication with the networked sensors. So use of software, analytics, machine learning and knowledge discovery, this is generally you can see as the special features of industrial IoT. That doesn't mean that in your conventional IoT you don't have the software, analytics, machine learning and all, but the extent to which the use of the software or the data analytics or the aspects of the machine learning or the knowledge discovery that has to be digged out, so they are much higher in your industrial IoT compared to the conventional IoT or the traditional IoT, right? So now if you look at some of the examples, maybe some of you may find yourself placed in these kind of careers later after your graduation and all, right? Refining operations, manufacturing, maintenance, right? Refining business model of industry, railway track maintenance, right? So nowadays lot of applications of IoT are coming in the the Department of Railways for various reasons, right? So that is one thing. Mining, right? You even bring in the concepts of IoT into the mining. Of course, when we look at some of the case studies in our later discussions, we will try to touch upon all these things in what way your IoT plays its role in the different kind of applications that we generally come across in our day-to-day life. Agriculture is one of the most important and very well and versatilely talked sector where your IoT can be used, right? So oil and gas, utilities, transportation, logistics, healthcare service. So these are all some of the examples where you deploy your Internet of Things, especially in the industries, with whatever the additional attributes they are supposed to have that I have already made a mention about. The handling of huge data, using the analytics, knowledge discovery, right? Having the sensitive and precise information, right? The different smart actions, right? So they are generally more seen in our industrial IoT compared to the conventional IoT, right? So you have some example like the bicycle manufacturing, right? So a lot of videos are there in your YouTube. You can look into the different manufacturing domains wherein the IoTs are being used, right? So whenever you have the bicycle manufacturing, sensors at each manufacturing stage communicating the information of the completion of the stage. IIoT applications analyze the data of the completion of each activity at each stage, data of breakdown, work stoppage, and failure at different stages are identified without any human intervention. That is where you make use of your edge computing, right? Node computing, then use the distributed computing, all those things which we have already spoken about earlier. Then you have the synchronization of the various actions to remove the bottleneck, right? Whenever you are able to get the information quickly at one end which is located away from the other end, definitely the process of synchronization has to take place at a faster rate, right? So maybe there may be some failures related to a lack of the component supply or manufacturing stage machinery failures, human failures, right? All these things are we are able to address these things in a quicker and faster manner, right? So this is one example which I have taken, right? So now you can quickly look at the different phases that take place. It is also can be considered as one of the case studies here, right? IIoT phases in bicycle manufacturing process, right? So maybe there are certain customized things here which may not be generalized. Frame manufacturing process, how it should start with, which is the backbone of this. In fact, I have drawn the inverted one, something like this, the frame, okay? Then cold working and butting, hollow steel tubes manufacturing, this is the second second process, right? Welding and joining the tubes, frame manufacturing, right? Brakes, seat posts manufacturing, general assembly, right? Aligning and finishing, right? Then crankset and saddle manufacturing, alignment of the wheels, tires, tubes, finishing, right? Then applications and service, knowledge discovery, analytics and data visualization, data processing, right? Then finally sensors and processes, data communication. So now up to here we have, or up to here we have the general processes that are involved in the manufacturing of the bicycles. But in what way our IoT will come into picture here, right? So when you have all these processes which are taking place in a particular sequence, right, the possible bottlenecks which may happen there, right? And because of the reasons that I have mentioned, what could be the reasons for the possible bottlenecks to happen there, how quickly you should be able to overcome those problems, they are all coming under your working, or the integrity of the sensors, or the way in which you process the data, way in which you analyze the data, right? How do you have the discovery of the knowledge, which are the frequently occurring problems in a particular process, right? How often this problem takes place, in what way you get the information about these problems, and what kind of actions you can take. All those things will be taken care of by your IIoT, that is the industrial IoT, right? So finally you have the applications and the services. So it need not be limited to only manufacturing only. It can be related to the sales related or the market related issues also, wherein it may be possible for you to have the access to the general data from the various sources about the demands and other things, right? You can always about your competitors, right? So how good they are in manufacturing, how good they are in the marketing, all those informations you will be able to get, and finally they are leading you to the applications and services. This is the last phase. Anyway, it is one example, nothing much technicality behind these things, but when you start manufacturing the bicycles in the bicycle factory, what are the different things that you can come across as a industrial process control, pure or the conventional industrial process, and to that in what way you can add the features of your IoT. So those things are represented in this particular diagram. It is just for your information, right? So that in your subsequent studies or discussions, if at all you want to study some cases of these kind of things, so then precisely along with the manufacturing, right, you can also add the different features as applicable to the Internet of Things to that particular manufacturing process, so that you can have a complete skeleton or the design or the layout of IIoT for a specific manufacturing process, right? So now let us move on to the next aspect, which we call it as predictive maintenance. So this is another important thing which comes generally in the the manufacturing sector, right? Predictive maintenance. So what do you mean by predictive maintenance? Predictive maintenance basically is used to determine the conditions to check whether maintenance is really required or not. So I hope you can understand. It is going to help in determining whether the maintenance is required or not. So for maintenance could be for anything, for any entity, right? I have already given you one example, if you remember properly, in one of my previous presentation, automatic, the car maintenance service, right? So wherein you see, physical inspection is something different. A person will go there, physically inspect the different parts of vehicles, and he or she will suggest whether the maintenance is required or not. So that goes with the individual perception. But when you deploy the sensors and other kind of things at the different parts, so then the decision on the maintenance will be always very accurate, whether it is really required or not. That will save your a lot of cost and other things, right? So for example, you have your vibration analysis in the vehicles or in machines and all, oil analysis, it could be the thermal imaging, right? Having the thermal imaging of the different parts, it is possible for you to have the proper analysis whether all the parts are working properly or not, right? So it may be the equipment observation. There could be different equipment in the industrial scenario, right? Whether all the equipment are working properly or not. All these kind of things coming under the predictive maintenance, right? So now this predictive maintenance using IIoT technology, industrial IoT technology, right? So maybe you have predictive railroad service center, ultrasonic sensors, infrared temperature sensors. I have already made a mention about these things: thermal imaging, vibration analysis, oil analysis, equipment observation and all. So they are all taken care of by these kind of sensors. Could it be ultrasonic, infrared, temperature sensors, microphone sensors? So now these things can be put along with this is an example here, predictive railroad service center. So you can have so many such examples in our day-to-day life, okay? And these sensors are going to be put along the railway tracks, sensing and communicating the captured data for each train passing through each segment of the track, right? The application predicts the failures, undertakes the preventive maintenance. So this I have already made a mention earlier also. Indian Railways has got lot of applications as applicable to the IoTs, right? So this is one kind of application wherein you can have the predictive maintenance using IIoTs, right? So maybe the different sensors which could be used there in the railway track maintenance or the predictive maintenance for the railway tracks, right? So they are mentioned here, right? Undertaking the preventive maintenance. So preventive maintenance is different, predictive maintenance is different. So you should make a proper differentiation, right? So prediction finally leads to the prevention of the problems and all, right? So if you are able to predict the requirement of the maintenance, then it is always possible for us to avoid the other kind of compulsory or inevitable maintenances and all, right? So this is what we call it as the preventive maintenance. Now you can see this, this is one diagram or the figure wherein you can have the visualization of the predictive maintenance, right? So you have got the sensor here. This is something which is required to be maintained, right? So you have got the wireless sensor, you have got the gateway, all these things you are very well aware, right? So you can see here what you have here, right? So then these things go to your cloud, and there the decisions are taken whether to take up a proper predictive maintenance or not, right? So this is one example which is there to give you the pictorial representation of how the maintenance can take place, right? So there are certain the softwares, right? GE Industrial Analytics software predicts, this is called as the predicts, right? The platform provisioning for sensors based computer and predictive analytics, right? So this is one example. You can always Google it, GE predicts, right? How exactly it works and all is beyond the scope of our discussion, but this is one service provider for you to have the predictive maintenance, right? So you have Exeda, right? So there is one more company called Exeda, which is advanced cloud based service and software, manages connected products and machines, implementation of innovative M2M and IoT application. These are some of the things as mentioned in the textbook. So they are not limited to only these two. You have got so many predictive maintenance service providers nowadays available because of the availability of the very good internet technology and the cloud services, right? OSI software for real-time data management, sensor data from the manufacturing processes, utility companies such as electricity, phone and mining, right? They are used, and sensor driven computing is facilitated by this OSI software, right? So this also you can Google out and find out. So in what way the different services are being provided by OSI soft, right? So then you have something called as automotive IoT, right? So the automobile industry is one which is very much using the IoT nowadays, right? You have got automated cars, right? So self-governing cars and all, they are basically the applications of they are basically the applications of this technology, including the IoT, right? So automotive IoT enables the connected cars, vehicle to infrastructure technology, predictive and preventive maintenance, and autonomous cars. So you know what exactly we mean by autonomous cars, right? So you can quickly look into these things. These are not connected cars technology with the combination of GPS tracking and internet. I will show you one diagram of the Google car, if I remember correctly, somewhere here. Okay, so autonomous car, I will come to this later. Okay, so connected car technology with the combination of GPS tracking and internet. the automotive vehicles driven through roads with little or no efforts at all. So ultimately we are interested in these things. Why IoT? Ultimately you will have to have the comfortable and convenience, right, with little or no effort at all. Display for the drivers that enables the drive through the shortest route, congested route. So these things nowadays we are also very much familiar with your Google, right? So shortest route and congested route. Customization of the functioning of the vehicles to meet drivers needs and preference, right? So in all the high-end vehicles you have all these things, right? Again, needless to mention this unless we are all very much familiar with these things, right? Get notifications about the traffic, protecting car against theft, weather and en route destinations, right? Keeping a tab on drivers' health and behavior. See what all the things have come nowadays, right? So these are all the applications of the GPS tracking as well as the internet, right? So these are the different things which we can have as the input for us to design the IoT applications to the automotive industry or the automobiles, right? Vehicle to infrastructure technology. Alerts and warnings for forward collision, information of blind spots. You may be knowing about the blind spots, right? Whenever the car takes this kind of turn, right? So when this is the glass and you will be having the rib here, I mean the glass rib, so you will not be able to see for some time this particular portion because this becomes the obstacle for you, right? So these are called as the blind spots. So whenever the vehicle takes a certain rotation, certain degree rotation, obviously it will give you an indication in some of the high-end cars and most of the high-end cars about the blind spots, so that you be more alert about what might come from the front, right? So this is called as the blind spot. Notification about vacant parking space, information of the congested traffic on route to the destination, right? Streams live music and listen to the latest news. It's almost all these things we have in our the conventional or middle ranged cars only nowadays, right? So but there are some more things which we will not be able to understand, right? So they may be made available in the high-end cars and all, right? So that doesn't mean that for design and development of these kind of applications you should always look into the high-end cars. You can have your own modules designed and you can deploy in our own the medium end or the low end cars also, right? Because they are all the customized modules and that all depends upon how best you have designed the system, right? The internet and the GPS system can be made available on any vehicle nowadays, right? Once those things are there, definitely you can have the additional features, what you can call them as the add-ons, to take care of all these things. So this is about vehicle to infrastructure technology, right? Automotive IoT technology useful in predictive maintenance of an automobile by service center application. The sense data communicates in real time, stores, transmits when the automobile reaches the Wi-Fi node. The service center application schedules the maintenance alerts, predicts failures and alerts for the actions, right? So these things are nowadays being done manually. Whenever your car is due for service, you get a call from your service center, right? So that is the reason why generally we don't bother about all these things, right? So and they repeatedly call us so that we become very irritated, right? So these kind of things are also there, but instead of that you can have your own database, you can have your own system that alerts you that, see, there is some problem with your vehicle, it has to get repaired, so when is the scheduled appointment for this. If you have all these kind of alerts, so then your convenience level will increase, and that is where your IoT might come into picture. So with that perspective only we have to think of all these things. These are all not at all related to us, but how you design a system for having all these conveniences, okay, having all these provisions, having all these privileges, right, in addition to what you have now. So that is what is our botheration, and we will have to develop that kind of system, or that kind of modules, so that our contribution towards the society, our obligations towards the society is met, right? So with this I will stop this presentation now. If you have any doubt, we will meet quickly. Thank you.